Welcome to What Makes You Tick Best Bits. What is an intrapreneur? I speak to a lot of executives and leaders who are trying to find the positioning for themselves in the marketplace. And then when they hear the term intrapreneur, they go, that's what I am. It clicks. What does it mean though? What are the traits of an intrapreneur? Why do entrepreneurs need a team of intrapreneurs around them? How can you spot them? How can you get the best from them? How can you hire these people to come in and build the business around your great idea? And if you are an entrepreneur, here's some language to help you position yourself and the unique value that you can bring to a business. Enjoy the episode. If you like the full conversation, we'll put a link in the show notes for you to enjoy.
So you're really looking for the entrepreneurs for other companies. Why do you think, or do you think that's necessary to succeed, or is it just easier to succeed with entrepreneurs?
It depends, like most things do. So what I really mean by that is it depends on the size of the business. So if you think about early stage businesses, a lot of the mistakes that get made are that they go, right, we need now a sales leader or a marketing leader. And we are in this space. And in this space, there are these 2 or 3 big, very famous global brands that have this incredible reputation. So let's try and get someone from there. And then they go and try and find someone who's operated at this completely different level. Maybe it's a public company with loads of resources who have achieved these incredible things, but maybe they're looking for something a bit more early stage to have a bit more impact, a bit more say. Maybe they're a bit frustrated with the red tape that exists inside a larger organization. Maybe there's a life event that's changed, but they aren't ready to become an entrepreneur, but they want a bit more of that early stage buzz and excitement.
Some of that magic.
Exactly. But it's very easy to be attracted to someone's resources. What early stage businesses don't have is resources. So you need people who are resourceful. And it's a very different type of person who is a world-class operator in a larger business where they're utilizing all of the complex resources and stakeholder management to be able to pull together a load of people to achieve something incredible for clients. Than it is someone who goes, this thing needs doing. It's not in my JD, but I'm going to go and do it. And I'm going to do that too. And I'm going to do that too until I'm ready to go and scale it to someone else. And we're going to have to be scrappy and we're going to have to think differently and be a bit innovative and maybe take some shortcuts as we rapid test this idea to see even if it's worth moving. In big businesses, they can't change that fast because once you've told your shareholders and the market what you're going to do, you have to do that for 12 months. There has to be a really good reason why you don't. So you can't just pivot and change. Whereas in early stage businesses, particularly kind of 0 to 3 million, you're changing constantly your messaging. You're changing constantly your understanding of what your ICP is. There's so much iteration and failure, experimentation, that you have to have someone who's very, very open to failing and is very open to taking on a huge amount of responsibility themselves. For me, they're 2 different types of people.
So with these entrepreneurs, like what are the traits that they have? Like, what do you look for and how do you spot one?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I don't think it is a case of you go, here is the 10 things that you're looking for inside an entrepreneur, and let's just do a survey, get them to answer yes or no. And if they tick yes, then it's fine. The biggest thing is that they're going to be super excited about this challenge because the entrepreneur is driven by the same things the founder's driven by. They want freedom. So one of the challenges with an entrepreneur is that you can't micromanage these people. You can't go, right, I need you to do this way, follow this playbook, follow this script, follow this system, do not deviate. You need to give them free rein because one of the drivers for them is being trusted to go and find
Autonomy.
the how, to have some autonomy, probably when they do it. Certainly they would like to be able to control the sort of projects they work on, what they say no to. You know, they're good deleters of distractions. So you need to find someone who's very, very open to taking a huge amount of autonomy and responsibility over themselves. They're able to make decisions by themselves without having to constantly ask for approval and constantly just tell me, is this okay? Should I do that? It's just someone who's a bit more, it's better to seek forgiveness than permission. So that's one side of it. They're a different animal. But the other side is they are incredibly high level operators, very driven by execution. So these aren't people who just spend all day in strategy and then get into analysis paralysis. They are massively driven by taking action and going testing hypotheses and going and getting real time feedback. But they won't stop until they've got an answer to a question, until they've got a conclusion. Even if that's failure, they're just going to keep pushing through. So that's a massive driver. And then it's the things that I talked about. They have to be super hard workers and they have to care deeply. But that's just not what I mean by that is, and it's a challenge. This is where it's really hard. There aren't people who just care more than others and who work harder than others. It's context specific. So, for example, if you put me in a situation where I need to go and produce a huge spreadsheet with lots of pivot tables and formulas,
You're going to be asking ChatGPT for a lot of help.
I'm going to be like just in a world of pain doing that. So I would probably come across as someone who's not very good, who's pretty lazy, who would procrastinate against that task and not produce the best possible result, probably make some mistakes. Whereas if you put me in a place that I love, where I'm in flow, then I'll be someone who you might call an A player. Like I'm totally driven. I'm finding creative ways of solving this problem. I'm bringing my energy and my passion to it. So you're trying to find people who deeply care about the challenge you're trying to solve in the world, who can really get behind it and become a bit of a gravity ball where they bring other people through their energy towards what they're trying to accomplish in the world. So there's all these soft things, but you can test for them by making sure you do a couple of things right up front. One would be total clarity on expectations. Where hiring always goes wrong is expectation management. If you tell people, here's where we are with our product, here's where we are with our funding, here's where we are with our revenue, and the reality is the product's really not that good, the marketing doesn't really exist, the customers that they're referring that they've won, some of them are already given notice, they've got a crazy churn rate. When they get into it, they're just going to be like, this is not at all what I signed up for. So you have to be very clear around what you can't do, what you want to do, where you are today, what the problems are, where you need them to get focused on, and what the upside and the opportunity and the vision and all that wonderful long-term stuff looks like. But if you get that stuff up front, then people are volunteering with eyes wide open into that scenario that they can go and put their heart and soul into, because they will commit like a founder. But if you tell them a false set of truths and kind of sugarcoat it, nothing worse than killing the motivation of someone and presenting them with a reality which is far lower than their expectation.
This is great for me because I feel like I'm fitting this mold. So you're like describing what I'm always trying to figure out what I do or what I am.
Well, so you're an evangelist, right?
Yes, that's my title here.
So, and you've created this podcast. So tell me about that. So
are you going to psychoanalyze me now? This is
we're just wondering, right? You've talked about, you're resonating with this. It kind of like feels like I'm describing you a bit, right? Which is why this language is so powerful, because people could go, yeah, that is exactly how I've been trying to articulate like myself and the value that I've got. But how did that come about? Did they say, hey, we'd love you to come in and we'd love you to create a podcast and here's how it's going to look? Or did it start completely differently?
Well, obviously completely differently. I came in as a engineer on the engineering side, DNS
Yeah.
filter. I think I was hire number 13 or something. So very early.
Yeah.
I did wear a lot of hats like tier 2 tech support, DevOps engineer. Then I became product manager and now I'm kind of in marketing. But I'm like this odd thing that no one really knows what to do with. But I'm also really good at a lot of things, things like this podcast. And I specifically serve a lot of our partner community, MSPs, value-added resellers, especially those MSPs. They're very entrepreneurial. They have to be. They were a tech person. People ask for computer help, and then they kind of realize, oh, I can make this a business. And they're like sometimes accidental entrepreneurs. And a lot of them are stuck in this like 1 to 3 million ARR revenue range, which is very common in the MSP space. But they're ambitious to break out of that. And I feel like what you're talking about, hiring that entrepreneurial spirit to head up some business unit is the way to break out to that. So I'm just very excited to bring this message to that audience.
Yeah.
And that is what I guess somewhat Dina's filter saw in me to go give to bring messages to our customers and prospects.
Yeah. Well, they couldn't have picked a better person, right? You
Oh,
resonate with
thank you.
people, you connect with people, you're passionate. You were a business owner before, right? You had an electrical business, you've been director of some charitable foundations. You have owned everything inside businesses and had to go and rally people and get passionate about it with not much resource. So someone saw within you that ability to go and take that kind of level of ownership and care. And with more resources around you and some support, and then letting you run with it, you will create something out of nothing.
Yeah. And
It's
it's
purely
funny,
gold dust.
I just like these MSP founders tend to have a hard time letting go of things. I'm like, well, I can do that. Like, I can make the thumbnail for this episode. I can
Yeah.
do whatever. I can create the blurb, the description.
Yeah.
But maybe you're not best suited for that.
Yeah, true. But why don't people delegate, right? It's one of the biggest things for a founder to let go of. Particularly it's their baby, right? And often it's like, their family security is tied to it. So the stakes are very high. But if you haven't hired the right people and you start giving people responsibility or the opportunity to take responsibility, and then they underwhelm and they make a mistake and then make it again, and then it causes this problem with your team or with your customers, your reaction to that is going to be, I've noticed a pattern, I need to do the things myself. If you want something done right, you've got to do it yourself. And then you're just a bit screwed. You're in this scenario where you feel like you are the best person in the business at doing those things. Can't build a business like that. You have to hire people that when you're watching them work in flow, once you've given them the tools and the resources and the support and the expectations and the clarity, you're wowed by them. They just wow you. You're watching them and it's like, I cannot believe this person can do that. I could never do that. And if you get those people in different places on the pitch for you, then you create this team which is much stronger than the founder by themselves. And in my experience, probably the number one reason why businesses don't break out of founder sales, because they just don't hire people who have the ability to help them to scale beyond the founder.
So let's say you are one of those businesses kind of trapped in that um, average space and you want to break out and you've listened to this and you're like, okay, I agree. I'm going to go find some entrepreneurs. You find them, you bring them on board, you try to set your expectations and then you try to get out of their way. Like, what do you do then? Like, how do you not get your hands dirty? Do you have advice in that realm?
I think they have to get their hands dirty. There's definitely a transition that happens. You can't just go, right, I've hired the right person. Now I'm going to get out of their way and I could just go and focus on all the things I want to go and focus on. There's going to be a big period of education and transition. You have to educate. It's like partners, right? What's one of the big problems in the partner community? 80% of our revenue comes from 20% of our partners, or in a lot of businesses, 90% of our revenue comes from 10% of our partners. Why? Because a lot of people sign up partners. They go, brilliant, signed up. We'll check on you in a year. Show me your deal edges. Show me your revenue. Why didn't you do anything? Why didn't you use your MDF? Oh, sorry,
Oh, we
didn't really have
forgot you
any.
existed.
Yeah, exactly. So it's the same. You don't just hire a partner and then expect them to be successful. You don't just hire a salesperson and then suddenly they start hitting quota. There is going to be this period of them learning your business, having no expectation in terms of the outcomes they're going to go and deliver. If they make a great immediate impact, fantastic. But you have to give them all of the opportunity to learn. And the right sort of person in an early stage business, if you're paying them well, will have that kind of like self-starter. Here's the plan I need. Here's my own plan to go and break through in your business. Maybe they do their own, 1080 plan. And it's like, right, cool. From this point, then we're going to be ready to go and take it over. But you have to involve them in that process. I think when it doesn't work is that if you bring someone in and the expectations are not clear around what they own, what their swim lanes are, what the outcomes we're trying to achieve are, what resources they do have, what they don't have, what needs to come true for them to go and unlock that next level of resource to go and grow, because we're cash flow sensitive and we need to make sure that we're spending money on the right things and not betting on bad things and continuing to burn. Once those expectations are clear, then you treat it like individual projects. Let's go and do work on this project with this outcome, with this goal. We test some hypotheses. And then if we achieve it, fantastic. Then we move on to the next thing. If we don't, we go back to the drawing board. And if you break it down into specific outcomes that you're working on together with really like partnership level of communication around the problems that you're facing, then you've got a really good chance of getting there, rather than here's the year one goal. And then, you just try and do all these things at the same time and then get a feeling it's not working. They get a feeling it's not working. And then you decide that the relationship's broken. So I think you have to break it down into very clear outcomes, responsibilities, activities, put a bit of a smart plan together, basically, and then treat them like a partner.
Yeah, maybe like create a
Trust.
plan together, perhaps.
Yeah, I mean, what's better than that? People. It's like if you're building a territory plan with an account executive. If you said, "Here is your territory plan," the account executive is not going to buy into that. Whereas if you say, "Right, new quarter, build your territory plan. We'll work on it together. Let's coach you," but you give them ownership of it, it's much more likely to stick, right?
Exactly. Let's talk a bit about this entrepreneurial kind of culture, but like in the frame of a growing business. I'm thinking
Yeah,
of NVIDIA with their CEO Jensen Huang and Brian Chesky from Airbnb
sure.
have kind of been, you know, NVIDIA has a very flat executive structure. So like
Mm.
it seems from the outside at least that Jensen Huang has 40 or so entrepreneurs that report directly to him and they just go dominate in their specific business unit.
Yeah,
And similar strategy for Airbnb. They're kind of back to basics, like back to startup slash founder
yeah,
mode, like whatever. Is that something that you're seeing too?
yeah. I think so. It's like we all have these hero, larger scale operations that we emulate. Same as Amazon, right? Jeff
Yep.
Bezos says that he doesn't want executives sitting in meetings learning about the brief. You read the 5-page document before. You let the most junior speed people talk first so they can get their opinion across. And then the most senior people talk last. And Jeff Bezos doesn't talk. And he's the very last person to talk. So he's encouraging this high level of responsibility and ownership within his business. I think there's some golden lessons that we can learn from businesses who have been that achieve that level of success. So I think it's the same principle. The worst case scenario is that you want to hire all these people because they're entrepreneurial and they're very talented and they've got a track record of doing things themselves, self-starters, all that good stuff. And then you have the founder is the first person talking in every business meeting, commanding the company meetings, taking over sales calls, taking over client interactions, trying to do everything themselves. That person's level of motivation and belief and confidence will die very quickly. Whereas if you do the opposite, which is you're the last to talk, you let the other people talk first, you create an environment where their time is respected and you protect their time. You not only give them the freedom to take ownership, but you respect their time in a way that you're not filling their diary with 30 hours of meetings a week and expecting them to go and be an effective coach to your team or to do a great job of managing your accounts. Thank you for listening and watching this Best Bits short. If you like this, tune in next Sunday for our next special part of our favorite episodes. And if you love the main podcast, every Thursday we introduce you to a new virtual mentor so you can hear their career story and answers to the biggest questions in tech. See you on the next episode.